What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and show where I, Graham, G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking the latest episode of WWE Chronicle, focusing on Jey Uso. So I'm a little late to the party here. This went up last Saturday before the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. Not quite as timely anymore, but it was still very good, clocking in at around 29-30 minutes. The timing was obviously perfect when it came out. It was right before his big Universal Championship opportunity at the pay-per-view in the main event, as we later found out, against Roman Reigns, and arguably the best match in the entire show. I would say the latter match, from an in-ring standpoint, was the best, but from a pure storytelling standpoint, that took the cake. It was a great match. Obviously, he's still in the midst of a pretty major push right now, as we saw on SmackDown last week. He confronted Roman. They're having a rematch at Hell in a Cell, so I would still recommend checking it out when you get a chance. But yeah, this was absolutely fantastic. All the Chronicles they do are really, really good. They've done ones on everyone from Samoa Joe to Shinsuke Nakamura to Paige when she got injured a couple of years ago, to Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Roman Reigns, Cain Velasquez even. All the ones they've done have been really, really good, and this one was no exception. So they started off with Jey talking about what day one means to him. The producer asks him, which is a great question, like we hear all the time, day one-ish, like what the fuck does that even mean? And the producer, the very first question that he asks him here on the show is, what does day one mean to you? What does that mean? And he says, it's all about my family, because the family is a big part of this episode, not only as it relates to Jimmy and Jey, and not Jey, he is Jey, I was going to say Joe, Roman Reigns, but his own family. He has a wife, he has two kids. I don't think I've ever seen his wife or kids before prior to this episode, so it was kind of cool to see that, take shape here on this show. So this Chronicle takes place from September 4th, which would have been, I think it was the SmackDown right when he became the number one contender. I think it was when they started filming. So it takes place from that to September 18th, which would have been right before the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. Not exactly, they might have been like, not the SmackDown before the show, like when Roman attacked Jey, but like the SmackDown before that. So they don't show Roman attacking Jey in the final show before the pay-per-view. But they do show a lot of footage on this episode of him growing up on the football field with Jimmy, with Roman. They're like teenagers, they're kids, they're babies, and they're always hanging out with each other, which is cool. So Jey talks a lot about how his dad, Rikishi, was on the road quite a bit. And Roman's dad, uncle, whatever, I forgot exactly. But his parents, his family was also on the road quite a bit. So they kind of had that in common, and when his dad wasn't there, they kind of had that void that needed to be filled. So he and Roman kind of had that in common. He got used to that lifestyle. He runs down the family tree of everyone from Rikishi to, Roman's part of the family, the Wild Samoans, to Rosie, to Umaga, to the Usos themselves, and everyone else involved in the family. The Rock, of course. So he's also obviously very proud of where he came from. He talks a lot about that. And he says, I was made for this. I'm built to do this. So they transition to a clip of Jimmy suffering the injury, a torn ACL at WrestleMania 36, and that triple threat I was going to say triple threat tag team match, but it wasn't a tag team match. It was a pure standard triple threat match for the tag team titles, which makes no sense, but that's what they did. I think Miz was sick or something. So Jimmy was involved in the match. That's where he got hurt. And he said, it's kind of weird to go down to the ring without his brother nowadays because he's always been by his side. And Jimmy's done some single stuff in the past, not a lot, but when Jey was hurt 5 years ago, Jimmy did do some single stuff either on his own, like either on main event or like with Roman a little bit from what I recall from several years ago. So Jimmy's a bit used to that. Jey is not. Jey has always been by his brother's side. And he talks about how kind of being brought back to SmackDown on his own, and he's made a few appearances in the last couple of months. He was involved in an Intercontinental Championship number one contenders battle royal back in May. Lasted until the very end, actually, until I think Sheamus or Corbin won or something. He also, this is amazing, but he also guest hosted or did the emceeing for that karaoke contest back in July. That was Jey Uso, and then a month later is the number one contender to the Universal Championship. So how quickly things can change. But he talks about how quickly it feels that whole transition has been. From tag team throwaway singles guy to like a main event performer, like a literal main eventer. He main evented that pay-per-view last weekend. He said it feels like going from high school, playing football, to the pros, almost overnight. And obviously it's a very big step for his career, he says. So they show the footage of him becoming the number one contender, winning that Fatal 4-Way, pinning Matt Riddle to earn that championship opportunity at the pay-per-view. And the first thing that we see him say afterward, after the show goes off the air, he says it to the camera, he just goes, did that just happen? He's in utter disbelief that he's the new number one contender to the Universal Championship. And he calls it a win-win for the whole family. Not just his family, but the entire Anoa'i family. From Roman's family to his family, everyone at the, the tribal chief. So, Anoa'i, not Anoa'i or whatever I said. Alexis is behind me and just corrected me on that.
Hi.
But nonetheless, we move along here. I always call it Anoa'i. I always got that wrong, but it is Anoa'i. Nonetheless, we see his two sons actually, Jace, which is spelled Jeyce, and they don't say it here, but I'm pretty sure, obviously, that it originated from his own in-ring name, which is Jey. So he may have named his own son after his name, which is cool. And the other son's name, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but it's Jaciyah, Fatu. I think is, I don't know. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. He had said it here on the episode. I forgot how he pronounced it though. But he asks him, who do you think's going to win the match? And they kind of hesitate in saying Jey, which is funny because they probably know that Roman's going to win. But we see his wife. Again, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, but it's spelled Takecia. And she also talks about how they met in high school. I think it was high school. They've been married for a while now, I believe, because his kids are not like babies. Like, his kids are at least, one of them probably 8 to 10 years old. The other one's, I think, is a teenager. So, and he's not an old guy. So he's had kids for quite a while now. But he talks about how he and Roman are so close that he actually used to call Roman Sika Joe, named after his father, not Jay's father, but Roman's father. And obviously his real name is Joe, so that's where that kind of came from. He remembers always being competitive with Roman, climbing trees at his house. They always used to try to outdo each other, Jimmy as well, always doing competitions. They show footage of them playing football in high school, even before that with I'm not even exactly sure what it's called, but like the kid football and stuff like that pre-high school. They were doing that as, together as well as, too. He talks about how Roman was a big part of his childhood. And a lot of that childhood memories involve Roman, and there are a lot of good memories as well, because when you have a good childhood and you have a lot of good friends and family to kind of associate yourself with, it equates to a lot of good memories, and he has a lot of good memories when he thinks about Roman Reigns and the times that they've spent together over the last 15, 20 years or so, probably even more than that. We see him talking about the upcoming Universal Championship opportunity with Michael Cole at ringside, which is cool. Michael's like, your first pay-per-view singles match is going to be for the Universal Championship. How does it feel? And it's not for the show. Like, they're both wearing masks. It's probably before SmackDown that night. They show the segment from a SmackDown the first week that they teamed when Roman was backstage with Jey, and Roman was just kind of looking off into the distance, like pissed that Jey's even talking to him. And Jey's like all excited going down the game plan. You don't hear what they say when they initially aired it on SmackDown. It's just kind of the visual of Jey being all over Roman and Roman just kind of being annoyed. We got to hear what Jey had to say here, and it was all just random rambling. And then they start laughing when the camera stopped rolling, for SmackDown anyway, because Roman was trying to keep a straight face. I'm surprised they didn't crack. It was a great segment. So I thought there was a little cool behind-the-scenes thing there. So they teamed up on SmackDown successfully, knocking off Sheamus and King Corbin in the tag team match. They actually show a promo of him cutting a promo with Jimmy in FCW. They've been with this company for a very long time. I'm not sure exactly when they signed. I want to say 2009. It might have been before that. I know they debuted on the main roster in 2010, but they've been with the company even longer than that, and that was over 10 years ago. So they've been here for a long time. He told a pretty emotional story about how Umaga, his uncle Umaga, saw potential in them from a very early age and urged them to come train with him, I think in Texas. So Jey actually legitimately had to drop everything at once, like say goodbye to his wife, say goodbye to his one kid, I think at that point, and go train with Jimmy in Texas in like a very small apartment. He said he got evicted at one point. Very emotional, serious stuff. And the wife even says, we hear from her a little bit, and she says it was a huge decision for him to just kind of off and leave to go pursue a dream that he had no expectation was going to work out. So it was a very big deal for her, for him, the kid, everybody. We see Jey writing down a Kobe quote, which I thought was really, really cool. A Kobe Bryant quote. I think it was like, enjoy every step of the journey, especially if it's hard, or something like that. And he kind of uses that as motivation, which I thought was awesome. So then we see him questioning himself as to how he's going to prepare to fight his own cousin, his own flesh and blood. And he's done it before in tag team matches and, multi-man matches, but never one-on-one. This is a totally different scenario, also without his brother by his side. So it's a completely different dynamic here in the main event of a pay-per-view, again, for a world championship. Doesn't get much bigger than that. He says he doesn't want to waste the opportunity. He's gaining more and more confidence by the week, which is pretty evident. He kind of seemed a bit shell-shocked when he first got the opportunity, but he feels more like a single star now than he did a month ago. Like, he's been doing great work in the last month or so since he became the number one contender. Not only that, but he talks about, or not just him, but we actually see Tamina talking about him getting this opportunity. She gets really emotional, and I don't want to say like that, it kind of struck me as a little weird because it wasn't the vibe they were going for here. It's not like, oh, you got to dedicate this win to Umaga, who died 10 years ago, or like, I don't know, it just kind of seemed random with the vibe they were going for, and Jey was serious. He's focusing on the opportunity, and then he's just backstage, and you see Tamina crying as she's talking to him, saying how, it's all about you now. It's about you. You got to go out there and, prove yourself, blah, blah, blah. And, it's nice. It struck me as a little shocking, but it was a nice moment between the two of them. Speaking of family, we see Jimmy FaceTime Jey, and they don't really say anything of substance. It was kind of like a cool, like, brother-to-brother moment to see how Jimmy's doing and checking in on Jey and kind of support him going into his big championship match. And to close it out here, Jey just says, it's about me and my brother, or it was always about me and my brother. Now it's just me. He talks about how he thinks about Clash of Champions, that match coming up, which is now in the rearview mirror, but at that time he said he wakes up every morning thinking about that match, thinking how Roman may or may not be thinking about that match. What's going through Roman's mind right now is what he's wondering. But he's most definitely feeling the pressure, he admits, and he's always had his own brother to lean on. Now it's my time to speak out, is what he says. And he wants to get out of their shadows and prove himself as a bona fide single star, and maybe very well could be the next Universal Champion. I don't think so, but I guess we'll find out come Clash of Champions already passed, but I'm talking about going into Hell in the Cell when he gets his next opportunity at the title. So this was great stuff. I really enjoy the Chronicles they do before every pay-per-view. They're always very entertaining. The Braun one they did around SummerSlam time was great too. This Jey Uso one was also very, very good. So check it out right now on the WWE Network, WWE Chronicle on Jey Uso. And again, it only aired about a week and a half ago. It's a little, not old, but it's not as recent, but it's still very timely going into Hell in a Cell, going into their next match for the Universal Championship. So be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up. Check out the WWE Chronicle reviews in the that playlist in the description box down below. And that's about it, guys. So take care. Have an awesome one. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.